My name is Rowena Ellington, and I'm 29 years old. Competence doesn't audition. It hums. Off-peak dishwasher at 12:01. The budget cells knitting themselves shut in green. The calendar nudge labeled Hard Conversations on the second Tuesday so hairline cracks don't widen into sinkholes. I like ballast. No one thanks ballast until the boat lists. Thursday evening posed like a magazine photo. The lamp carved a soft triangle across the rug he picked, which meant I paid and he approved. The apartment smelled like bergamot and the last of the roasted garlic. I was closing out a monthly reconciliation when Caleb sat on the far end of the couch like a guest in our life, phone angled toward his chest, the way you shield a secret from a breeze. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice dipped in therapy speak. The hum dulled. I clicked save. Sure. He looked at the bookshelf, then at a brass bowl that cost too much because he liked the way it photographed. He avoided my eyes, like the truth was an overripe fruit he didn't want to bruise. Before he found words, the doorbell rang. 2 quick chimes that felt like a pulse skipping time. Caleb's shoulders lifted, then fell. "That's someone I should have told you about." I stood, smoothing a crease from my sweater that didn't exist. "Then let's open the door." I already knew who would be on the other side. Not from instinct or jealousy, both are unreliable witnesses, but from data. 6 weeks of it. Calendar entries, cycle tracking on a tablet Melanie had once borrowed and forgotten to log out of. The hospital's ultrasound appointment file where the emergency contact line did not say Caleb Hart. It said Garrett Cole. I'd learned that because Jerome, my friend since freshman accounting, works nights 2 floors down from obstetrics and sometimes gossip and coffee ride the same elevator. Caleb pulled the door open. Melanie Ross, 8 months pregnant in a dress the color of sunrise, filled the frame with a practiced softness, lips in a careful smile, eyes scanning for sympathy she could live in. "Hi," she said to me, almost surprised I existed in the scene. Then to him, "We need to talk about the babies." I stepped aside and motioned her in. "We're all adults. Talk." She sat where my notebook had been, a palm pressed to the curve of her stomach like punctuation. "Caleb," she began, trying to find his gaze and failing. "These twins aren't yours. I'm choosing their real father." The onesie I'd folded this afternoon in a twilight of gullible hope, yellow with ducks, flashed across my mind. But not shock. The only surprise was how gently the moment landed, like something I'd padded for weeks. Caleb's mouth opened, shut. "Mel, we said we'd tell Rowan together." "You mean you said you'd tell her?" she said, glossy patience flaking off. "I'm done lying. It's not fair to anyone." I heard a muffled vibration from the hallway, then footsteps. When the second knock came, it was accompanied by a voice with the calm of someone who confused serenity for moral authority. "Mel, you okay?" Caleb answered before I could move. Garrett looked exactly as advertised. Man bun, spiritual tattoos curling like vines, a linen shirt that believed in itself. He carried a canvas tote that clinked faintly, stones or glass, I couldn't tell. He clocked me in one quick pass, then focused on Melanie, then on Caleb, then back to Melanie. "Hey," Caleb's jaw twitched. "You brought him here?" "I asked him to come," she said, as if I'd left a box inadequately labeled, and she was just clarifying contents. "For support." "Support for who?" I asked, not because I needed an answer, but because it's neat to label your shelves. "For all of us," she said, reflexively benevolent. I sat on the arm of the chair, a little higher than all of them. "You've said the twins aren't Caleb's. You're choosing the real father. That would be Garrett?" Melanie hesitated. 1 heartbeat, 2. "Yes." Garrett laid a hand over her hand, their fingers making a prayer steeple on her belly. "We don't want conflict," he told me. Which was funny given the way he'd arrived as a chord resolving itself in someone else's living room. Caleb finally found the air. "Mel, you told me the timeline was that it could be mine." "That was before I got clarity," she said. "Before I did some work. The babies, they've been absorbing Garrett's energy for months." I don't know if you've ever watched a man try to keep his heartbreak elegant. It's like seeing someone in an expensive suit realize there's spinach in their teeth and a microphone on their collar. Caleb smoothed his tie. "You're saying this here." "Where else?" she said brightly, as if I had a tray of tea just off screen. "It's neutral territory." Neutral. The nursery I had painted in the kind of sage that looks expensive in daylight and charitable at night. The crib Allen wrenched by my hands. The bank account under my name alone. I nodded toward the hallway. If you're leaving, I'll arrange movers. Tomorrow at noon works. Melanie blinked. Caleb blinked. Garrett blinked slow, like a cat. That's fast, he said. Time got very fast 6 weeks ago, I said mildly. Caleb turned to me, pupils blown. Rowan. I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm honoring the choice declared to my face. She's choosing her real father. You're choosing not to be the father. I'm choosing peace and a locksmith. Melanie's fingers tightened around Garrett's. You're being weirdly calm, she said, wary, like calm was a snake coiled under a linen napkin. Why aren't you angry? Would it change anything? I asked. Her gaze skittered. She rose and paced my rug, the one she complimented in the voice people use when they're measuring covetously. You have such an eye for texture, Ro. Her belly led like a ship's figurehead. I thought you of all people would understand, she said, attempting sisterhood in a disaster she authored. I can't help who I love. Garrett, sincere as a guided meditation, added, The universe brought us together. I glanced at Caleb. His throat worked. He had loved the idea of being the father, the arc of redemption it gave his past with Melanie. Boy and girl, break and remake, fate as an excellent PR firm. He had also loved me. Both things can be true until a third thing walks in and says, Pick one, and by the way, you're wrong. I folded my hands in my lap so I would not fold them around anything else. The universe can Venmo the rent, I said. Garrett's tote clinked again. He brightened. Actually, he murmured, that's part of why I'm here. There's an energetic claim you've been building, your attachment to the twins' field. If you could release it, the transition would be gentler. Caleb flinched. Garrett. No, it's okay, I said, because I wanted to hear the entire opera before I shut the house lights off. How does one release an energetic claim? He reached into the tote and produced crystals the size of guilt. Rose quartz, amethyst, something that looked like a storm captured mid-argument. We'll place these in the room the babies slept in. They never slept here, I said softly, but continue. And you'll set an intention to let go of a mother field that isn't yours. Melanie's look at him was half adoration, half warning. She needed his delusion to survive the night. I stood. I released the field, I said, because I'm generous. I even opened my hands over the coffee table in a little priestess gesture to sell the moment. There we go. He nodded gravely, like the universe had notarized something. Melanie exhaled as if the babies had shifted into better real estate. Caleb put his face in his hands. God. Not his department, I said. It might sound petty the way I handled them, but here's what you don't see. The envelope in my desk drawer with 3 barcodes highlighted. The consent form Caleb signed without reading because he trusts my paperwork more than his own backbone. The water bottle Garrett abandoned when they'd come for dinner as friends. And the 3rd swab I'd had to collect with more creativity. Lipstick-stained glass, from a hotel bar on July 16th, the night of a certain reunion. I hadn't broken a law. I'd honored a pattern. When someone shows you who they are, believe the timestamps. Tomorrow at noon, I repeated. I'll text you a list of what's yours. If you leave anything, I'll assume it's a donation. Melanie's eyebrows jumped to her hairline. You can't just... I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm not kicking you out, I said. I'm acknowledging that you left. Garrett's hand hovered over her back like a drone. We should go, he said gently, to her, then to me. Thank you for the release. I walked them to the door. Melanie paused on the threshold. Rowan, she said, lower now, trying on vulnerability, like a coat she might buy if someone else paid. You were going to be there. She stopped herself. She'd nearly said mother. She tried again. You were excited, weren't you? I was excited about a story that isn't true, I said. This is a better genre. I opened the door wide. In the hallway, she laced her fingers through Garrett's and didn't look back. Caleb did. He looked at me like there was a cliff under his feet and the math wasn't mathing. When the door closed, the apartment recognized me again. The lamp triangle softened. The garlic cooled. I returned to the desk, slid open the drawer, and rested my fingertips on the envelope without taking it out. I hadn't shown them the twist. Not yet. There's a special kind of silence you offer people who think they've detonated your life. You let them listen to the absence of your screaming. You let them believe the blast worked. Then you turn on a small light and inspect the room for what's still standing. Across the hall, the elevator chimed. I imagined them descending. Melanie buoyed by righteousness, Garrett by quartz, Caleb by something he'd mislabeled as fate. I waited until the numbers lit G. Then I texted Jerome. Tomorrow? Lunch? Bring the story you promised me from triage. I'll trade you one from obstetrics. He sent back a single emergency room emoji and a thumbs up. I went to the spare room and stood in the doorway. Sage walls, sun-bleached mobile, the crib we'd assembled together because he said it was romantic to do the first father task as a team. I touched the rail, then the card taped inside. My list for later: return, donate, repaint. A whispered edit arrived. Repurpose. A ship doesn't argue with the weather. It takes its ballast and picks a direction. I turned off the lamp and the apartment slipped into the kind of darkness that isn't empty, just quiet. The kind that holds. Tomorrow at noon, I would call the movers. Later, I would retitle the nursery a word that paid my rent: office. And eventually, I would open the envelope and let the truth sit where it belonged, on the table, under bright, forgiving light. For now, I let the hum return. The next morning arrived precise as an invoice. The light through the blinds looked clinical. No nostalgia, no romance, just evidence of day. I poured coffee into the mug Caleb had once gifted me. World's best partner. Ceramic irony. By 9, movers were booked. By 10, the doorbell rang again. I expected boxes. Instead, I got a guilt parade. "Rowan," came the voice I recognized from holiday dinners that never quite became family. Lorraine Ross, Melanie's mother. On my doorstep, pearls, perfume, and polished outrage. The woman had given me a daughter I never had card 2 Christmases ago. Today, she looked ready to revoke it. "I heard what happened," she said, brushing past before I could offer entry. "You can't just throw a pregnant woman out." "I didn't throw her," I said. "She walked towards someone else." She made a mistake. Lorraine clasped her hands in that church lady triangle, meant to look merciful and actually meant to control. "You don't abandon family over mistakes." "She's not my family," I said. "That's the mistake corrected." Lorraine blinked, scandalized. "Those babies need a father." "They have one, probably 2, depending on test results." Her jaw twitched. "Garrett can't provide for them." "Then she should have picked a different hobby." The conversation died the way expensive flowers do. Beautiful, then suddenly rotten. She left without saying goodbye. I watched her taillights fade, the scent of her perfume lingering like a legal threat. By afternoon, the Flying Monkey Brigade assembled online. Melanie's friends texted, DM'd, and commented. Mini sermons about compassion, hormones, and how a real woman doesn't hold grudges. I screenshotted everything and posted them to my story with the caption, "When you defend your friend but forget she cheated while pregnant." Lost some mutual followers. Gained breathing room. Then came Garrett. Security at the firm called up. "There's a gentleman in the lobby with rocks. He says he's here for an energy transfer." Of course there was. I went down, mostly for curiosity's sake. He stood amid marble and fluorescent light like an ad for delusion. Linen again. Sandals this time. A small velvet pouch clutched like an amulet. "Rowan," he greeted, soft as a yoga mat. "We need to talk about the energy between you and the twins." I folded my arms. "The what now?" He looked hurt by my tone. "Even though they're biologically mine, they've been absorbing your frequency for months. If you don't release it, the bond will stay confused." "The bond is confused," I said, "because their mother cheats like it's cardio." He ignored that. "Would you be willing to participate in a short ritual? It won't take long." I gestured to the lobby. "Be my guest, but if the sprinklers activate, I'm walking away." He smiled, producing 2 stones from the pouch, each labeled in marker, Twin A and Twin B. He held them like holy relics. "Close your eyes," he said. "Visualize detachment." I closed my eyes, visualized a restraining order. "I release," I said solemnly. "There, all detached." He frowned. "You're mocking something sacred." "I'm mocking something stupid," I corrected. "Different genre." He took a breath. "Melanie told me you're angry." "I'm not angry, Garrett. I'm methodical. Anger's loud. Method is effective." He blinked. "Then why won't you help her?" "Because she picked you, remember? The universe made that call." "The universe doesn't pay rent," he murmured, echoing what I'd said the night before, as if trying on the phrase to see if it fit his mouth. "Exactly," I said. "So maybe it's time she learns what it's like to pay her own." He hesitated, then reached into the pouch again. "At least take these," he said, holding out the crystals. "They'll help with forgiveness." "I already forgave her," I said, not lying. "That's what makes this funny." Garrett tilted his head. "Funny?" "Yeah, I forgave her 6 weeks ago, the day I got the results." He blinked. "What results?" I smiled. "You'll see." That night, I opened the drawer again. The envelope was still there, creased now, smudged from my thumbprints. Inside, the paperwork Jerome had walked through for me at the hospital. Official letterhead, DNA identifiers. 3 tests, 1 marked CH, Caleb Hart, 1 marked GC, Garrett Cole, and 1, most interesting, BC, Brendan Cross. Not a single match. I ran a finger down the printed lines that confirmed it. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Melanie had spent an entire year playing musical fathers. The twins weren't Caleb's, they weren't Garrett's, which left one more name, someone she hadn't mentioned in months but whose photos she couldn't resist liking. Brendan, her ex from before Caleb. The man she'd spent 6 years with before their messy breakup. The man she'd recently visited for a high school reunion. The timeline fit too perfectly. Her cycle tracker, synced to our shared tablet, had logged ovulation not during her yoga retreat, but exactly the weekend of that reunion trip. When she came home, she'd smelled faintly of hotel shampoo, not her usual brand. I'd kept my silence because timing is its own kind of justice. Truth without proof is gossip. Proof without timing is noise. But truth with timing, well, that's revelation. At dinner, Caleb tried small talk, like normality could be assembled from leftovers. "How was work?" he asked. "Peaceful," I said. "Security got blessed with crystals." He sighed. "Garrett came to your office, didn't he?" "He did." "I'm sorry." "For which part?" I asked lightly. "The cheating or the spiritual harassment?" He rubbed his forehead. "I didn't cheat, Rowan. I thought maybe the babies were mine. And yet you never asked for proof." He looked up. "Would it have mattered?" "It would have changed how long I kept believing you." He opened his mouth, closed it. He was learning silence the way I'd learned restraint. Late, but usefully. I slid my plate away. "I'm not angry, Caleb. Honestly, I think you needed her to feel needed. Some people mistake chaos for intimacy." His eyes glistened. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. "That's the only reason you'll still get your deposit back when you move out." He nodded slowly. "You're different." "No," I said. "I'm just done playing calm so someone else can play victim." He didn't answer. The room filled with the quiet clink of cutlery that no longer belonged to we. 2 days later, Jerome called. "You sitting down?" "Always," I said, accounting posture. He laughed, then lowered his voice. "You were right about that patient, by the way. Melanie listed Garrett as emergency contact, but there's a note about her last OB visit, same clinic, same weekend she flew to her reunion." "City?" I asked. "Seattle." "Seattle," I repeated. "Interesting." "Why?" he said. "Because her ex-boyfriend lives there," I said, opening my laptop. "And he's been tagged in her reunion photos." I pulled up her feed, the kind she'd made private but not private enough. Friends of friends still existed. Photos scrolled past, group shots, clinking glasses, hotel lobby smiles. Then one caught my eye. Melanie and Brendan in a booth, her head on his shoulder. Caption, "Old friends, same laughter." Timestamp, July 16th. Same day her ovulation log spiked. Same day I'd now immortalized in the paternity file. "Jerome," I said, "remind me to buy you lunch. You've earned it." He chuckled. "Happy to assist, detective." That evening, a message pinged from Melanie. "Rowan, I heard you've been spreading lies. This stress isn't good for the babies." I typed back, "Lies need imagination. I'm just quoting data." Then blocked her again. Around midnight, a soft knock broke the calm. Caleb stood outside, hands stuffed into jacket pockets, looking like a confession that had run out of words. "I just wanted to check you're okay," he said. "I am," I said, surprisingly. "I didn't know she'd show up that night," he said quietly. "I was going to tell you." "I believe you," I said, and meant it. "But believing you doesn't change that you brought her into my house once, and she brought him in after." He exhaled. "You're better at this than I am." "I know," I said. "That's why I'll be fine." He nodded, lingered as if waiting for permission to feel forgiven. I didn't offer it. Forgiveness isn't a door, it's a demolition permit. When he finally left, I sat at the window and watched the city's reflection slide across the glass. Somewhere below, someone laughed. Somewhere else, Melanie rehearsed a new lie. The world kept spinning, mercifully indifferent. I turned off my phone, sealed the envelope again, and whispered to the empty room. Soon. Because secrets rot best in silence right before you open the lid. There's a rhythm to unraveling. It starts slow, a thread brushing your fingers, and before you know it, the whole fabric slides off the loom. Mine started with a Facebook tag. A coworker, one of those overly nostalgic types, sent me a link. "Isn't this your friend from yoga? Thought you'd get a kick out of the reunion pics." I clicked it. There she was, Melanie, in a sleeveless red dress, smiling with that unearned serenity. People post when they think the truth is behind them. Next to her sat Brendan Cross, her ex-boyfriend, arm around her, hotel carpet visible in the background. Timestamp, July 15th through 17th, the reunion weekend. The same weekend her cycle tracker had pulsed fertile blue. There it was, proof, geometry, cause and effect. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing close to rage, just relief. Confirmation sharp enough to cauterize. By midnight, I'd packaged everything into a single folder on my laptop labeled "For When They Ask." Because eventually, people always do. 3 days later, they did. The knock came soft at first, then louder. I ignored the first two, thinking it was a delivery. The third had urgency. When I opened the door, Melanie stood there, belly first, with Garrett a step behind her. He carried his tote again, maybe for moral support. "You need to stop," she said without greeting. Her voice was high, tremor barely masked. "You're telling people things that aren't true." "Such as?" "That Brendan's the father, that I cheated at the reunion." I leaned against the frame. "Would you like to come in and discuss your allegations?" Garrett gave her a quick glance. "Maybe we should—" "No," she said, pushing past me. "We'll talk here." "Fine. Let the ghosts perform in the hallway." She turned to me, eyes glassy. "Why are you trying to destroy me?" "Destroy?" I echoed. "I didn't realize you needed help with that part." Garrett winced. "Please," he said softer. "Let's not fight. We just want to know what you told people." "That your math is off," I said. "That your calendar and your conscience disagree." Melanie's lip trembled. "You think you're so smart with your spreadsheets and your data, but love isn't data." "No," I said. "That's why yours keeps crashing." Her face flushed. "You don't understand anything about connection." "Melanie," I said evenly, "connection isn't supposed to come with a guest list." Garrett cut in, tension in his jaw. "She said you've been spreading rumors about Brendan." "Rumors require uncertainty," I said. I unlocked my phone, scrolled to the photos, and handed it to him. "Try facts instead." He hesitated, then took the phone, scrolled. His lips moved as if reading aloud to some private disbelief. The picture, Melanie's hand on Brendan's chest, her wedding ring from our broken engagement. Absent. "Those don't mean anything," she snapped, trying to snatch the phone back. "We were just catching up." "At 3 a.m., I said, in his hotel room." "That's not—" Garrett's voice was suddenly quiet. "Melanie, did you sleep with him?" "Garrett, please." He looked at her, not as a lover, but as someone finally seeing the equation without parentheses. "Did you?" She reached for him. "It was a mistake. I didn't even know I was pregnant then." "That's not what the dates say." "You're overreacting," she cried. I could almost hear something break inside him, a faint, clean sound, like a twig underfoot. "Do you think the twins are his?" he asked me, without looking away from her. I shrugged. "Does it matter? You two believe in destiny. Maybe destiny likes punchlines." "Stop mocking me," he snapped. "Then stop making it this easy." Melanie's eyes shone wet. "You can't talk to him like that." "Why not?" I said. "You already did worse." She lunged toward me then, 8 months pregnant, emotional inertia behind her. It wasn't violent so much as desperate, a body trying to reclaim control it never had. Garrett caught her by the arms, held her upright. "I need to know," he said, voice trembling now. "Are they mine?" She twisted in his grip. "Of course they're yours. Don't let her poison you." "That's not a yes," I said. Her eyes snapped to mine, blazing. "You hate me." "No," I said calmly. "I just don't owe you delusion." Garrett was pale now. "Melanie, is there any chance they're Brendan's?" She hesitated. 1 second, 2, 3, and that was enough. He stepped back, arms dropping, letting her find her own balance. "I can't believe this," he said softly. "Everything we said, everything we planned." She reached for him. "Garrett, no, it's not like that. I love you." He backed away. "You love whoever listens. That's not love, that's gravity." The silence after that sentence was the kind that makes clocks loud. "You're not leaving," she whispered. He looked at me, then back at her. "I have to know. I'm getting a test." She gasped. "You don't trust me?" He gave a broken laugh. "You just proved why I can't." Then he turned and walked down the hall. Melanie's breath hitched. She turned on me like an animal cornered by its own reflection. "You ruined everything." "No," I said, "you just hate witnesses." "You couldn't let me go. You couldn't let me be happy." "I could," I said, But you weren't being honest. And happiness doesn't survive lies this big. She sobbed, a sound raw enough to scrape the paint. I hate you. Good, I said. That'll keep you warm until your next poor decision. She stumbled away, tears blurring her voice. I closed the door before her echo faded. For a long time, I stood there, hand on the knob, heart steady. Inside the apartment, everything was in order, the kind of order that comes after demolition. The next morning, a text from Jerome blinked on my phone. You up? You're trending on local gossip pages. Someone recorded that hallway drama. I smiled. Of course they did. Some stories write themselves. By that weekend, Garrett called. His voice was hollowed out. You were right, he said. They're not mine. I exhaled. I know. How? I told you, I said. I read data, not Destiny's. Long pause. Are they Caleb's? No, I said softly. Not his either. Another pause. Then Brendan. Probably. A small sound escaped him, half laugh, half sob. I thought the universe brought us together. The universe just keeps receipts, I said. He hung up without goodbye. Later that evening, I got another call. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Calm, cold. Is this Rowan Ellington? Yes. This is Natasha Cross, she said, Brendan's wife. I straightened. We should talk. Coffee or confrontation? I had it. Both, she said. Tomorrow 10 a.m. That night, I sat in the half-painted nursery, the one I still hadn't renamed. The walls caught the dim light, green and waiting. I thought about all the people who had walked through that space, pretending permanence. Then I opened my laptop, renamed the folder Melanie Ross, Exhibit A. Under it, I added a note, next closure. Because truth, when delivered correctly, isn't revenge. It's freedom dressed in paperwork. The cafe was all sunlight and stainless steel, too clean for betrayal, too bright for secrets. Natasha Cross arrived exactly on time, not the kind of woman who ever needed to text, on my way. Her posture alone said she was already there in spirit 10 minutes early. She sat across from me, ordered black coffee without sugar, and slid a small envelope across the table. Hotel receipts, she said. Dinner for two, champagne, room service. My husband told me he was with his old college friend Craig. Craig doesn't drink rosé. I opened the envelope. Paper edges, credit card signature, B. Cross. Dates, July 15-17. Reunion weekend, I said. Exactly, Natasha murmured. And the timing, she looked at me. Melanie told him she's pregnant with twins. She told everyone something, I said. Natasha's fingers tightened around her mug. I'm 4 months pregnant. We reconciled 2 weeks after that reunion. He swore it was over before I came back. I'm sorry, I said. She shook her head. Don't be. I needed to see it. You're the one who forced it all into daylight. Sunlight's a brutal disinfectant, I said. She gave a small, sharp smile. Then let's disinfect everything. We talked for nearly an hour. About lies that calcify, about women being expected to tidy men's messes, about how betrayal always finds a way to look poetic until the paperwork arrives. When she stood to leave, she said something that stayed with me. You got lucky. You get to walk away clean. I have to stay for the child. I watched her go, her silhouette strong against the morning glare. Maybe she was right. Or maybe survival was a different kind of luck, earned, not given. 2 weeks later, the world finished falling apart in sequence. Garrett had demanded a prenatal paternity test. Melanie fought it until the threat of abandonment overpowered the illusion of control. The results arrived. Garrett called me, voice dull as static. You were right, he said. They're not mine. They're Brendan's. I know. Are you happy about that? No, I said, but I'm free. He hung up without another word. A day later, Brendan's wife, Natasha again, called to say he'd confessed. He wasn't leaving her. She'd made him sign a post-nuptial agreement and schedule a vasectomy. He'll pay support, she said, voice clipped. But he won't play father. Fair. Meanwhile, Melanie's text messages came in waves. Rowan, please, I need help. Garrett's gone. Brendan blocked me. My mom's furious. I have nowhere to go. I ignored the first few. The next came longer, soaked in desperation. You loved me once. You were going to be their stepmom. Please, just until I figure things out. At 11 p.m., the doorbell rang. When I opened it, she stood there, hair unbrushed, face pale, belly heavy with what she'd mistaken for a future. He left me, she said. I know. I'm scared. I could go into labor any day. Then you should be somewhere safe, I said, with your mother. I can't go there. She keeps saying, I told you so. Then maybe you should start listening. Tears pooled. Please, Rowan, just until I get on my feet. I leaned against the doorframe. You think forgiveness is the same thing as housing? You can't turn me away like this. I can, I said. And I am. You're heartless. No, I said softly. I just learned boundaries. She gripped the door edge, knuckles white. You'll regret this. I already did, I said. That's why I stopped. She sobbed, stumbled backward, and left. I locked the door, then double-checked it. Not out of fear, but finality. Weeks passed. The twins were born. 2 healthy boys, announced in a mass text blast from Lorraine. She included photos. Caption: Welcome our miracles. I stared at the faces, tiny, soft, oblivious, and felt nothing but distance. Not cruelty, not triumph. Just the clean silence of something no longer mine. Brennan's name sat neatly on the birth certificates. Garrett showed up to the hospital for a day, then vanished. Caleb sent a polite message. Congratulations to them, I guess. Melanie moved back in with her mother, who now raised the twins while Melanie recovered. I heard through friends that she was already back on dating apps. Her bio: single mom of 2 looking for a real man who steps up. The audacity was almost performance art. She sent me pictures once saying, "They could have been yours." I replied, "They never were mine. That's literally the point." She blocked me within minutes. The wedding deposit I'd lost? Half refunded. Apparently heartbreak counts as early cancellation if proven in writing. I used the refund for a gaming setup. The nursery became my home office. The crib went to a women's shelter. Every Friday, I met Jerome for beers. He'd seen things at the hospital, but he said my story topped most of them. We'd toast to timing, to instincts, to paperwork that saved lives. Sometimes Natasha texted, a single line here or there. He's behaving. The twins are fine. We weren't friends, but there was something like respect between us. As for Caleb, he moved to Portland, chasing a fresh start and a new moral compass, hopefully one that came with batteries. And me? I stayed, built something quieter. Therapy helped. So did laughter. So did deleting old photos without ceremony. One evening, I sat at my desk, the same spot where I'd folded yellow onesies months ago, and looked around my reclaimed space. The air was light, no ghosts, no guilt. On the wall hung a framed quote from a favorite client's spreadsheet notes. Trust your data. It made me laugh every time. Because that's how this all began. A synced cycle tracker, a few suspicious entries, and curiosity disguised as competence. People call it paranoia. I call it record keeping. To anyone else reading this, any woman or man who feels that soft gut warning that something isn't right, listen. If the numbers don't add up, they probably aren't supposed to. If someone's story keeps changing, that is the story. And if you ever feel crazy for noticing the small things, remember this. It's not insanity to seek clarity. The truth saved me. Not because the twins weren't ours, but because their existence forced everyone, finally, to show who they really were. I didn't lose a family that day. I dodged a legacy of lies.